Hey there, folks. We're back with a Boros equipment deck. If you like the deck and you want to see some gameplay, link is down in the description to the first gameplay video. Sit tight. We're going to go right through the deck. Hey there, folks. My name is Thelona, and we're here with the equipment deck. Now, I know that I made the equipment deck a while back, a fair while back, in which case I took advantage of synergies, including double strike and whatnot, to try and eke out a ton of damage. This one's meant to be more low to the ground and get that spike damage, even though it might be less, out there before our opponent can deal with it. So with that said, that's pretty fast. So Bone Saw at 0 cost, 3 copies is our first equipment, where equipped creature gets +1/+0 with an equip cost of 1. It's meant to be out there nice and quick so that we can do things like run Toolcraft Exemplar to its best. Okay, so yeah, it's just an equipment, very simple. And next is Toolcraft Exemplar for 1 is a 1/1. And Dwarf Artificer. The Artificer is the key word here in this deck that's rather important. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control an artifact, Duelcraft Exemplar gets +2/+1 till end of turn. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it also gains first strike till end of turn. So as a 1-drop, and you want to get out there right away, this is definitely good with Bone Saw to try and get it out without really slowing you down, for example. Say you want to get some other plays out. So definitely good in that regards. The Artificer part is in relation to Inventor's Goggles. We'll get down to that in a second. Next up is Stoneforge Acolyte for 1 mana as a 1/2 Artificer ally. And so it has Cohort, where you can tap an untapped ally you control. Look at the top 4 cards of your library, reveal an equipment card from among them, and put them into your hand. And put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So there's not that many, and he's just in here for a little bit extra. Not to mention a 1/2 for 1 is just fine. Artificer is the thing that kind of decided it for me, since Inventor's Goggles will give him a quick bonus as well. So he's in here as a low to the ground guy, and he could get pumped very easily with the equipment, and he can fish out some more if you're sitting on a board state. Say, you know, their creatures can attack, your creatures can attack. Well, you might as well look for some more equipment to try and see if you can get some extra damage to break the stalemate a little bit, or find a little more favor for your trades. And next up is Inventor's Apprentice, 1/2 for 1, also an Artificer, and it gets +1/+1 as long as you control an artifact. So Nerd Ape at its finest, and a 2/3 for 1 is definitely quite useful when the mana cost is still 1, even after the artifact cost. But anyways, we have also Neglected Heirloom for 1 mana, and its equipped creature gets +1/+1, and when the equipped creature transform Neglected Heirloom, equip cost 1, and it transforms into Ashmouth Blade, where equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has first strike, and you can re-equip it for 3 at this point in time. So this has one general purpose: Lone Rider. That's about it. Although there are other effects, like these small creatures getting big very early is always a good thing, especially the fact that we can drop these guys quickly. And then when we have, say, an extra 1 mana left over, or say we can't do the mana efficient play, this makes it so that whatever decisions we make are probably more mana efficient. Anyways, on to Inventor's Goggles for 1 mana is another equipment, and equipped creature gets +1/+2, and whenever an Artificer enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach Inventor's Goggles to it. Otherwise, it's an equip cost of 2 at any other time. So it makes these things much, much bigger. Say this guy turns into a 2/3 and then turns into a 4/4 on the attack. Yeah, that's relevant. That's definitely relevant. And, you know, it makes this guy, you know, 2/4 or 3/5, you know, or yeah, it's 3/5 because of the, you get the idea. It makes them nice and, you know, they got enough toughness to survive a trade. Speaking of surviving trades, we've got Selfless Spirit for 2 mana as a 2/1 flyer, Spirit Cleric, so not relevant in that regards. And you can sacrifice Selfless Spirit and creature control gain indestructible till end of turn. So, you know, we get a little wide and we want to make sure that we're staying that way. Selfless Spirit will protect our more key threats. Anyways, moving on. Sram, Senior Edificer, is a 2/2 for 2 and legendary dwarf advisor. So not relevant for the goggles, but he seems to be wearing them nonetheless. Whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. We are not running auras, but we're going to be drawing cards. That's basically it. We are running vehicles, we are running equipment, so it's just some card advantage in that, right? So that these don't feel like a heavy investment. It's like, hey, yeah, I'll drop them down. I'll get another card out of it. Sure, I can't trip all of that stuff. So yeah, definitely worthwhile for the card advantage in that regards, and trying on the up and up. And I am busy right now. Next up is Lone Rider, a 1/1 for 2 with first strike and lifelink. Is also Human Knight, so doesn't apply again. At the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform Lone Rider. And it transforms into It Rides as 1, which becomes a first strike, trample, and lifelink 4/4. And so there's a number of ways to gain life. You can stack the equipment onto this. And also the neglected heirloom will eventually make it a huge benefit for when it also flips. But I went with a shortcut method in Aether Sphere Harvester. It's a one-shot deal, nice and simple, and it's, you know, it can flip. And in an equipment deck, it's definitely one that you want to keep around. Anything that buffs creatures, you want kind of to have Lone Rider available, because when it flips into this, it could get pretty nasty. Next up is Kari Zev, Skyship Raider, a 1/3 for 2 human pirate. First strike, menace, and whenever Kari Zev attacks, create a legendary 2/1 red monkey token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking and exiled at end of combat. So this is intended, this card kind of made it in for another reason, which was Weapons Trainer. Since Weapons Trainer buffs all your creatures, going wide with that kind of buff is creating extra power, and so yeah, definitely good. So you can have the monkey that suddenly becomes a 3/1, and that's what it was intended for. And then Kari Zev, a little harder to block, gets in for that extra little bit of damage. Next up is Weapons Trainer for 2 minutes, 3/2, and Human Soldier Ally. So these are the other allies in the deck that we can use for tapping down to try and get some extra equipment. Say we don't have an equipment and we have both of these guys, we can start fishing with our 1-drop and that, and start tapping and looking for a piece of equipment to get the benefit of the equipment bonus. So other creature control get +1/+1 as long as you control equipment. Did I say that? I don't know. It's a 3/2. I said that, I'm pretty sure. So anyways, yeah, so you can start fishing for equipment in that regards and try and get this benefit so that it applies to all your creatures. This is why Kari Zev is useful for the go wide plan, and also helps for getting Lone Rider a little more powerful. Also helps for getting crew costs covered very easily, just having that little extra bit. Say, you know, you have Strom out at the same time, but you have a Heart of Huron, you can drop a Weapons Trainer, you know, whatever. You could either crew with the Weapons Trainer, I guess, in that regards, or Strom, but it gives you the option anyway. So, next up is Veteran Motorist for 2 minutes, a 3/1, and when it enters the battlefield, scry 2. And when it crews a vehicle, that vehicle gets +1/+1 till end of turn. Dwarf Pilot, so not relevant again. So just meant to boost up we just took the you know, the flyers. They're the best ones. The flyers. Took the flyers and they're in the deck. That's basically it right there. And so getting them boosted up like Heart of Huron, turning into a 5/5 because it does match the crew cost of crew 3, and it really helps get that massive damage in through the air when the ground gets a little clogged up. So we can start really giving benefits. So, you know, Weapons Trainer also will boost these guys, so you can, you know, Weapons Trainer can boost the guys to get the crew cost available, and then once that happens, the vehicles also get the bonus and send in through the air for a nice hefty amount of damage. So, next up, Heart of Kiron, legendary vehicle, and has flying and vigilance with a crew cost of 3 as a 4/4, and you may remove a loyalty counter from a planeswalker you control rather than pay Heart of Kiron's crew cost, which can happen because we have one planeswalker, and I mean, ticking off loyalty off of this particular planeswalker is not exactly favored, except if you're attacking with them, so that's not truly relevant. We've got enough 3 power in the deck that it probably won't be a thing, so it's fine. But it's definitely a 4/4 beast that definitely can protect you at the same time, and with all the ability to boost it up with this and this, it gets pretty sickening. Anyways, next up is Smuggler's Copter for 2 mana. It's a 3/3 flying vehicle, and when it attacks or blocks, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card, so with a crew 1, of course. And that's also just another benefit at getting these guys boosted up and, you know, swing in with a lovely Smuggler's Copter that's not only doing the loots, which gets annoying and good enough reason to kill it, but it's also killing you, so it gets a lot of hate very quickly. If a person can handle it, who knows? But it's definitely worth it in this kind of deck. Very much useful. And next up was a hot swap at the last minute. Just 2 declarations in stone for things that are just a little bit too big. This deck is intended to just vomit out a bunch of stuff and say, you can't deal with this because I've just got too much stuff. This is the only set of removal in the entire deck right here. And then the rest is just vomiting all this stuff out and saying, deal with it. Here's another threat. Here's another threat. Here's another threat. And just keep dealing with it. And if they get something that's just a little bit annoying, we just make our guys just a little bit bigger than their guys to keep swinging in and forcing them to have to do trades to just get rid of their big stuff. And, you know, and then Declaration of Stone will get rid of things that just go over the top. So, Declaration of Stone, 2 mana sorcery. Exile target creature and all other creatures it controls with the same name as that creature. That player investigates for each non-token creature exiled this way. So, they get clues if we take out non-token creatures. That's fine. We're a low-to-the-ground deck, so we expect to be casting this early on enough that, you know, say a mid-range deck doesn't really exactly have a footing yet, and then they finally drop their footing, and then we just Declaration in Stone and keep pumping out more stuff. And then that way, you know, they have to consider, okay, we got to this amount of mana, and they're still hitting us, and we have to decide whether or not we can get to that clue or start dropping our high-end mana stuff, and it creates a decision. And of course, for low-end decks, they're going to just vomit as much as we are, and maybe we'll get some multiple targets out of it. If not, then we're just going to overrun them anyway. Anyways, next up is Bygone Bishop for 3 mana, 2/3 Spirit Cleric with flying, and whenever you cast a creature spell with convert mana cost 3 or less, investigate, which gives us a clue. And all our creatures fit the bill in that regard, so we'll get clues off of none of that page, but all of the guys down below here to keep the steam going. So we can, you know, drop a Veteran Motorist, get a clue, scry with that, and figure out what we want to draw from the clue, all kinds of things like that. But it's meant to just keep the steam going a little bit longer because we're going to drop things so quick. We want to be able to refill our hand in some regards, and we're with all these cheap drops, we can crack clues and drop something on the side anyways. So it's easy to keep going with clue power on this, and also a flyer, so evasive in its own right. And, you know, if they don't have flyers to block it, we can dump all our equipment on this kind of thing. If it's an advantage, if it's a window, and send in with a Bygone Bishop beating their face. Anyways, next up is Aether Sphere Harvester for 3 mana, is another vehicle, 3/5 flyer, and has a crew cost of 1, and when it enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy counters, and you can pay an energy to gain lifelink until end of turn. We don't have energy sources so much in this deck. I mean, we have hubs down the road here. Yeah, we have hubs that'll get more energy should we absolutely need it, but it's just intended. It's not a theme. It's just, you know, if we get the lifelink, then great. In which case, we're going to definitely use it for Lone Rider's 3 life gain flip ability. So it's just an alternate setup to do it, and it makes it much harder for the opponent to react because you can drop the Lone Rider, activate the Aether Sphere, and send it in, and then they've got the other guy sitting there like, well, we never had time to deal with the 1/1 version of them. So yeah, did I say pay energy, gain lifelink till the end of turn? Yeah, well, whatever. Easily accrue 1 cost, so anything in the deck can accrue them. In fact, that's the case for also the Copters, and then the Card of Quran is the only difference in that regard. So yeah, it's pretty good that way. And finally, for the non-land cards, we have Gideon, Ally of Zendikar, for 4 mana, is a 4 loyalty planeswalker. His +1 makes him a 5/5 indestructible ally until end of turn. And then his 0 puts a 2/2 White Knight ally creature token into the battlefield, which could probably crew our guys, or just become 3/2s with a weapon strainer, and so on like that. Or, you know, what he's mostly in here for, what he gets mostly used for, is the emblem, where you get an emblem with creatures control get +1/+1. So spreading that across a bunch of go wide stuff, like even this, like Karizeb with an additional +1/+1. I've already explained how that goes and how that can get more and more dangerous over time as an evasive creature. So definitely a good include, and he can be the big body we need depending on the situation. So definitely helpful for the go wide plan. We can definitely go wide, we can go a little taller, or we can go onto an empty field with a Gideon swinging. So definitely pretty good. And mana base, 7 plains, 7 mountains, 2 Needle Spires, which is a 2/1 double strike man land. When it's activated for 4 mana, also adds red or white to mana pool, enters tapped. I said that all backwards, but that's okay. So this is meant against control matchups, something a little harder to deal with, and double strike is definitely a good way to deal with that and keep them guessing. So, you know, Yeheni's expertise or languish, which can be relevant to our deck depending on how our equipment state is, and then we just follow up with the Needle Spires to beat them with more and more and more. Anyways, next up is Clifftop Retreat, and it's one of the extra lands, and enters tapped unless you control mountains or plains, and it adds red or white. And then 3 Aether Hubs. When it enters the battlefield, you get an energy. You can add colorless to your mana pool when you tap it, or you can tap pay energy and add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So with all this said, it's a pretty low to the ground and very fast deck that's intended to it's kind of like the green-white humans thought. Grow your creatures, try to get them out fairly quickly. I'm trying to get them out even quicker than that if I can help it. And try and just go wide, go tall, go with utility in all kinds of forms like this and this, you know. And keep balance between all the other tricks. Just, it's got a healthy mix of all kinds of things except removal, in which case we're just overwhelming our opponent as our form of removal. We just keep them going, and then they have to consider their life total, in which case then they're dropping blockers much before they're ready, and that's how we get them. We just keep throwing more stuff at them, and if they're not ready for it, then we beat them. As simple as that. So, hope you enjoyed the deck tech. Again, gameplay link is down in the description if you want to go check that out. Also, that gameplay video is an experiment in 1080, and although it looks like it's all pretty good, it took me way too long to render. My computer's not ready for 1080, guys. I tried, but it's not ready yet. thanks to Has & Co, I have a video card that definitely can support the video looking okay and nice and smooth like this. So it runs a little smoother, but when it comes to rendering, it takes a freaking century, and I want to be able to get the videos out on a reasonable time. So I'll leave it like it is and just leave, I bumped up the settings on the game so that they're at top settings beyond that. So you'll see subtle differences after that, but for now, I tried. I think I need a new processor, and then with a new processor, in due time, I'll be able to render at proper speeds. But for now, nope. That's not the case, and so it is what it is. But it does open up for me to bring you more content, different content. So you have something else to see, and I can bring you more videos per week. With that said, hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.